Stax Records. I still play that CD that I got from PBS for TCA.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
you know, Feet From Stardom, I've watched it 3 times, and I don't have time to watch movies twice. But your work is just great. Let's talk about your work first, and we'll go into best of anyways, because that's important. See, they're smiling at me.
We like to do good work.
Yeah.
We like to take a subject or a character and use it as a lens to get to bigger issues. Stax is about the civil rights movement, about race in America, as much as it's about Jim Stewart, and Otis Redding, and Estelle Axton.
And 20 Feet's a film about, you know, gender and celebrity and a whole bunch of other things too, you know, as much as it is about music. I mean, it's funny coming to this film, you know, people wonder, you know, how are you making a film about politics? And like, it feels like the exact same film, you know. This is a film about culture too. It's about media, it's about the politics, the culture of politics. So it felt very much the same, and it's kind of an opera. Vidal and Buckley are definitely doing some kind of a tragic opera.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, this movie gets the 40s. This is my rating system. Not using now it's studying the script.
Yeah.
This movie's entertaining, it's educational, it's exciting to watch, and it's empathetic because of what they both went to. And we know if you're competing against each other, whether you like each other left or right, you both feed off of that. So they needed each other. And then when one passes away, you know, that kind of goes away in them. You have that empty void. Talk about that aspect, because that's very, very important for Buckley and.
Yeah. Well, it's the parity of the two of them. They came from such similar backgrounds. They were so equally matched that it wasn't like all of the other debates they had throughout their lives, and for many, many reasons. I mean, it brought out a side of them. It put them on a national stage in a way that they hadn't had before. It defined them in a way, and it defined them together. It showed that they had as much loathing as they had for each other. You can only loathe somebody that much if you have respect for them.
Exactly.
And it brought out also I think the worst of them, because they felt in seeing the other person and lashing out at the other person, they were lashing out at some aspects of themselves that they were trying to keep hidden, maybe. You know, there was something happening psychologically that they felt that the other person reflected an anxious version of how they saw themselves.
And there was a sense that after the blow-up, that they couldn't let this go. You know, this was Buckley carried this as a stone in his heart all his life. He had lost his cool. He'd embarrassed himself in front of the nation in a relatively false apology to Vidal, 10,000 words in Esquire. He tried to justify it. And then thereafter, I think he'd realized the only answer that he could give was quiet, that there was nothing he could say anymore on the subject that wouldn't embarrass him, basically. And so he was asked about it for the next 40 years of his life and never made a comment. And Vidal also was asked about it for the next 45 years of his life, and he never missed an opportunity to make the disparaging comment. Vidal kind of took succor from this enmity, and it was blood in his veins in a way.
As he would say.
Yeah, proudly. But I don't think, you know, that's so unappealing to me, and I think to most people.
What was most hardest for you guys when you were putting this together? Because it's very evenly paced, and I really liked that factor. It kept you engaged. And the reason I say that, because I've been watching a lot of movies that I have to watch at the film festivals. I had to literally stop, pay attention to this movie because it was that good. And like all your movies that you guys make in general. Talk about that aspect. What did you really want to get to the audience about both those personalities?
I mean, it was so much about the personalities. I mean, there's kind of the personal story. It's a drama between these two men. It's funny, it's tragic, it's all those things. But the balance part of it was that we didn't want to say this person was right or this person was wrong. We wanted to tell a more human story, and particularly when you get into political arguments, it's very, if you start saying, well, this person made a better point, you start alienating some of the people, and that's the kind of thing that we're trying to comment upon. We didn't want to rehash the arguments. We wanted to make a film about how we argue and have a bigger discussion about discourse and about media and intellectualism, and so for us the balance was the way to get there. What he said.
What he said.
When it comes to, I knew about Buckley growing up. I didn't really know who he was because I was a lot younger then. I knew a little bit more about Vidal. I had no idea, but they almost came from similar backgrounds. I found that really quite interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a major turning point for me.
But one of the things that really surprised us, was how similar their backgrounds were. The steps in their lives. They published the books on which they made their names around the same time. They each had, even before they'd each gone to opposing New England prep schools, book publishing.
Born the same year.
Born the same year. There was we actually have whole scenes that didn't fit in the film that, enhanced their parallel lives. So it was intriguing to wonder how men from such similar backgrounds came up with polar opposite views of the world, and God and sex is where they really diverged. You had a staunch Catholic and an atheist. You had a pansexualist, and in Gore, someone who claimed to have had 1,000 lovers, including Anais Nin, and a lifelong partner with whom he only had sex once. And Buckley, who I don't even, who was private about it. Whatever it was, there was speculation. So it's kind of a fascinating two different statues carved from the same stone.
What do you hope the audience gets out of seeing Investing in this? What do you hope they get from this?
On the one hand, I don't want people to think of the film as medicine, because it's dramatic and it is funny, and I think that's the thing that attracted us to it.
The drama.
To us in the beginning, that's part of it. It just works for us as a film. The idea you come away with, I think, is important, but it's not prescriptive. It's more, you should think about these issues too, because we don't think about it. We just take our media for granted these days, and we don't demand anything of it. And so I think if people can start to see that it wasn't always thus, and there are other ways of doing things, and we can ask more from our media, in whatever form that is, I think that'd be a good thing.
A more aware society, at the very least, for people to question the buffoonery that passes for political commentary. I would say that's my base hope. Hey, now I've just turned on, I've seen the movie, now I've gone back to my TV set, I turn it on, and I see the commentator I have always watched, and I see him or her in a new light. That makes me want to see something different.
But all the stuff that you guys have done, what's your advice for up-and-coming filmmakers? Because it's a whole new medium out there. And the way you guys are making your films, you guys just make good films. You make people put down your devices and actually watch what you guys are doing, and that's good. And the reason I say that, because when I saw The Wrecking Crew, which I'm still championing that film, just like I'm still championing, 20 Feet, those movies are really, really important when it comes to getting people's attention and getting off their asses and actually going and pay money to buy tickets to go see these movies, which are important. What do you say?
For
young people, advice?
You could write a whole book on this subject.
Think big. I would say don't be daunted by a towering subject. Icons have a lot of depth. If a subject's been done, it may not have been done to death. We made a film about Johnny Cash. it was Morgan's idea. I was a little skeptical at first, but as I got into Johnny Cash, I realized, wow, there's just myriad of layers here. You can see it all kinds of ways. The light refracts as it passes through him. It refracts in beautiful ways, which I think is why when I saw this raw debate the first time between Vidal and Buckley, I unhesitatingly, I wasn't intimidated by the fact that these guys were towering intellectual giants who could chew me up and spit me out. It was like, oh, no, these are rich subjects.
And, I'd just say we both started as journalists, and that, I'd say documentary filmmaking is journalism, and, you're employing the same tools, your storytelling, your reporting, essentially. But at the same time, documentary films are films. And don't forget, you need a story and you need a character.
You need a narrative arc. You need to surprise the audience.
Up-and-coming projects you guys are working on at all?
I'm just finishing a film on Yo-Yo Ma right now. So, totally different kind of project.
And I'm back to working on some Stax spin-offs. I wrote a book about Stax after we made the documentary, and it looks like there's an option deal for something or other, all to be determined, and 10 other things.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Sebastian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Can I get a picture with you guys?
Yeah.
Love your stuff.